tend to do. I don't blame us, it's just how it goes. Glad we shared those perfect starlit nights. Forever you're my friend, hope you know. So you're here in my mind, persisting through space and time. Even as comets move and the world turns, I will think of not so young and living different lives. I'd go back there again any day, even though it's been so many years. You're fixed inside my heart for always. So you're here in my mind, persisting through space and time. Even as comets move and the world turns, I will think of. Still you're here, still you're in my mind, persisting through space and time. Space and even as comets move, turns, I will think of you.
art or something. Hello.
What's up? Yep.
Yes.
There we go. Stream can probably hear me now. Okay. What's up, everyone? Welcome to our second week here of the weekly Milestone show. And today we have myself and Steve, like last week, but we also have our friend Sidin here. Welcome.
Let me reload this because my camera's being hella.
Okay, that's fine. Uh-oh. It's okay. We'll get him back in here. One second. Technical difficulties. Good thing we don't really have a, set amount of time we need to do this in,
Right. There we go. Needed to mute the stream on Twitch or else it was coming through my speakers and echoing.
Yeah, that's never fun. I've been there too. Hey, his webcam's back. Can you hear me, Steve?
Yeah, I can hear you. My webcam's still a little bit laggy, but it's alright.
I think we're getting both audio feeds though from your webcam link and then also Discord.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes. Good
Okay.
stuff. All right. Well,
is this pulling audio from Discord though?
I believe so. Say something again.
Okay.
Yeah. When you talk on my screen, your avatar on Discord lights up. So.
Okay.
And I get audio from it. So. And I
Cool.
believe that'll be what they're hearing because it'll go through my system sounds. So even if your webcam's a little laggy, they're still getting your audio. So at least I hope so. All right.
Yeah, my webcam is laggy too, so it's not just you, Steve.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
Because I'm watching myself and I can see the delay.
Oh, well, it's supposed to have a bit of a delay, no matter what.
Oh.
Yeah,
so I can't watch myself or else it's going to drive me crazy.
Yeah, your webcam on my OBS looks fine, Sidin.
Okay.
Steve's is a little like laggy and stuff, but I think we can just work with it. Maybe it'll work itself out, and regardless, we have his audio anyway, so it'll be okay. As long as we have his audio. All right, let's see. So, I want to put forth a disclaimer before we start that, and this is nothing bad. It's just I want everybody to know that since I moved back in this house and got internet turned on, my internet's been kind of weird lately, in that like it randomly disconnects. And Steve's been there a few times now where I've disconnected during lessers, for example, which is kind of a pain. But it's been okay the last 2 or 3 days, so hopefully it doesn't mess up on us today. And if it does, I'll try to reconnect and we'll set it all back up. But so far so good, I think. So just wanted to make a note of that out of the way. So today we're going to talk about, we have 4 planned topics for today. And the first one is we decided on either auction or bashing. Which one do you want to Which one do you guys want to get into?
It's a pretty hot topic, so let's talk about the artifact auction.
Okay.
Artifact auction.
So, what do you guys think? Do you think that it's going as expected? Do you think that, obviously we want to talk about the quality of the list. Like, what would you like to get into?
I mean, I would say we can start a little bit. I mean, I would say start with the quality of the list because honestly, right now the auction in terms of how bids are going, that's actually pretty standard. Like a few items are seemingly ridiculously high.
Right.
Some items are really low for what they are, or because we don't really know what they're going to do, or they don't really offer a lot. and some items are high, even though what they actually are going to give power-wise is actually kind of silly. But that's just how auctions go. The bid fever of auctions. Yes, the 7 credit whip for
Yeah,
somebody to
that
7K.
that blows my mind quite a bit. I'm not gonna lie. Like I thought the orb of power, since it's brand new, going for 4,500 is not that surprising, but 7,000 for
Cheap.
that whip, like,
No,
come
that
on.
orb of power is cheap because consider it's level 3 hunting artifact, and if you have 10 classes, that's 8,000 credits.
Yeah, it depends on the
So
person. If you're like me and have 4 classes, then I didn't really
right,
want to spend more than 3,200 on it, for example.
right,
So
right, yeah.
So, well,
And I had 6,
how
so
much is that orb going for right now? I haven't even looked at it.
I believe it's
4,500.
4,500.
Credits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which if in my terms, since I have 6 classes, that would be 4,800. So it's actually still a steal for me if I was going for level 3. So
Right.
yeah, like it's barely over half price for someone who has 10 classes.
Yeah, it certainly scales based on the person.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Mhm. And I think on like the Discord or something, Mazion confirmed that it is going to work for like level 200 classes too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Tier he asked that, and Tier on the forum said yes. So
yeah, so that gives it even more of a benefit. So technically, I guess 11 classes for those who have it,
yeah.
like him.
And then you can
So
also trade in all your old bash artifact powers and get value back is another thing.
that's
So
yeah, that's what I incorporated into whether or not I was bidding on it or not. Because I'm like, okay, so I have these level 2s and stuff, and how much is that going to be, and how much extra would I have to add, and all that kind of thing. So
So can you trade in stuff from the orb itself? Like, is it just an orb that has like all level 3 hunts on
no,
it? So
it has a whole
you know,
I
new
think it,
power on it.
yeah, I'm sure it has a whole new power on it.
oh,
That's
okay.
just
Because I was
yeah,
gonna say that you could just trade in powers for classes that you don't even actually have.
Yeah, you can
yeah.
actually here, let me type it in. If I can type today, let's see here. You can probe the artifact and it'll show you the power. Like, I'm having trouble typing today, huh? Like that. There we go. So as you can see, it has a whole new power on it. Just one power. Hunt _ quintessence. So yeah, you can. I don't know if I think I had asked here about something at some point, and I mentioned to him that, oh well, I can get some of the credits if I bid on it by trading in my existing hunt
Hmm.
powers, and he was like, oh, I didn't think of that. So maybe if they had thought about it, maybe it would be an orb that has all the powers on it, so as to not like give us as much value for getting it. But hindsight and all.
Nah, I mean, it's still good though. It's still gonna. I'm glad it's not like fit because at that point they would have to customize it so many times, or they'd have to literally just throw every single artifact thing onto a single orb, and you'd have to transfer it all, and that just one power to me is much cleaner. And on top of it, it's an artifact from an auction. You want it to be something special. You don't want it to just be a everything thrown in with all the powers you can buy off the RD cart. You want it to be something unique.
Yeah. And it's cool because like it's one of those artifacts that it does not have a benefit for having multiple. So they can come out with it again at some point, and like not the same person's probably going to bid on it.
Hmm.
So I think that's really cool too.
Yep.
But yeah,
I mean,
yeah, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
oh, I was gonna say I don't really have any desire to bid on any of these, auctions. I mean, they've held some randomly, throughout my time playing Atolia, but they've never been something that I've been interested in. And I mean, I guess that this artifact auction that's going on right now, all the stuff just seems very underwhelming. So,
That's fair.
I mean,
Yeah.
at least from my perspective, like, I mean, I don't really care about mini pets, so I don't want the whip. I mean,
Right.
I don't. The emblem of martyrdom seems a little silly in that, like, yeah, it would it seems like it would be a good idea, to have, but it's either going to put you first or dead last on somebody's T list, like at a a lesser or something. So
Yeah, it's I don't know. This has been talked about a lot this week, obviously, but we're still going to talk about it. It's like we were talking about last night. It's the fact that there are some people that would like to have that because they have the perception that they're always being attacked first at lessers, and it's not just me. I know other people feel that way, and it can be kind of useful for that at least once a day. But at the same time, there's obviously this whole thing about like some people think that it's going to like break break group PvP, and like we just mentioned, it probably won't. So
so I didn't even look at the thing, but it has a cooldown of one use per day.
yes, one
Yep.
use per howling. Yep.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you die. In a group combat, you get 1 round where it matters per day.
Mhm.
Which 1 round per day. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Fezzik had his bombs that did much more than that.
Right.
What did he have? His death orb. That
Are you talking about that crystal artifact that he has? I know. I think I know what you're talking about. I think I've seen him
Yeah.
use it before.
Yeah, and that was much more effective in
Let's
what it was
see.
doing than this.
Let me see if I can find it.
I guess personally, I'm not a huge fan of some of the artifact auction like arties because all right, I'm gonna go off on a tangent about the parasol of privacy because I fucking hate that
I
artifact.
guess I can't find it.
Like this artifact that is only available through the auction is somehow able to completely negate my 2,000 credit artifact.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't feel very good. And then of course, there's the complaint that it doesn't come around enough, or like some. It's funny because some people will be like, "Oh, I hate this thing," but then I've seen them be like, "Oh, this auction kind of sucks too," and I'm just like, well, like which one is it? At least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there was something else that was mentioned on forums about having like an auction raffle type thing because I know that the topic was brought up about some people don't have their play style is more casual than say somebody who farms a lot or does crafting or does like fracture runs all the time and
mhm.
and you put in the work to get that much gold and not saying that your hard work should be downplayed at all. You
Right.
should be able to participate in these these high level auctions.
That I
But
planned
there
for.
should be something for there should be something also for just your regular kind of everyday person
Yeah.
that it probably isn't quite as good but still makes it feel like that people can be involved. I mean that won't really, in my opinion, that wouldn't detract anything from the game.
Yeah. Well, the way it was initially presented sounded like that, it was a post that was like, "Oh, I can't participate in this, so you shouldn't have we shouldn't have it, so we should have this other thing." But but the point was to have both, which I can then agree with, but I
Yeah.
and
Okay.
but oh,
Give me 1 second. I
no
need
problem.
to restart my camera.
Okay, no problem.
No, there's no reason not to have both. I mean, the auction should just be the auction for what it is, and there should be a good selection of items, and hopefully there will be a refresh. We'll wait and see. But you can that since in the game the assets are created entirely virtually, there's no reason you can't have both. So
Yeah.
it's not like there's a shortage of resource or something like that in terms of beyond time and effort to create the objects necessary to make a raffle that would give something, be it credits or an item or something like that. Like having once a year, one of the months being a promotion where there's raffle tickets or something like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, and the funny thing is, after we had all those posts in that thread earlier this week, like I did finally get outbid on the emblem, and then to me in my head I'm just thinking, oh man, I lost that auction. Should I pretend like I'm offended and that I think auctions suck? Not really. I can always win something else, or I can wait till next time. And like Austin there said, I still have the gold. So I mean, there is that. And I just think that when it comes to auctions, there's people that obviously don't have the gold or credits, and then they're just like, it feels bad for them. But at the same time, like, I don't know, it's very one extreme or the other. It's like it either feels really bad or it's like, oh, I'm excited because I've planned for this. So I get it, and I think it would behoove us to have like a middle ground. And like I said in the thread, I think maybe we should have them more often, but that's really not a decision we can make clearly. But I think a lot of us would enjoy having auctions more often than once every
I
2
mean,
years.
how often do they hold those?
Well, I think Tier said it's supposed to be once a year, but he just forgot about it last year. So I think that is what he said on the forums or on Discord or something.
Mm-hmm. Typically, it's once a year, and that's IRE wide. Like auctions are typically held once a year in each game. They do it different months, but yeah, it's once a year typically.
Interesting.
But yeah, I don't think that even though I'm not, like, I'm still winning one of the gold items. Spoiler alert, it's the weapon rune right now. But if I get outbid on it, I can then use that gold to maybe bid on the emblem again, or I can keep it all. So we still have a lot of time for interesting changes to happen in the auction, and that's not that's even not saying that they're still not going to add more stuff too. So it's not the worst thing in the world that I got outbid. That's how I feel about it anyway. Like, and it's been interesting. It's at least it's not just another promo. Like, that's the way I look at it personally.
Yep, we're seeing some interesting things, and yeah, I'm really hoping that they do the refresh so we have a few more items, and then maybe next time they do the auction, they might do a survey or something like that, or a pulse a month before, to kind of get an idea of what we actually want to see. Whether or not it can actually be made or not, that'll be yet to be seen. But at least give, like, do we want to see custom wings? Do we want to see the hunt quintessence come back? Do we want to see, whatever that might be,
Yeah,
from a list of that they know that they can do or have the time to do,
sure.
and kind of work around that.
Hey Haley, thanks for the
Yeah,
follow.
I think I don't know. I was a big fan of like the ambiance tokens or whatever. Like I don't know, Aisling has a couple of them, or has one. Kalina has one. Where it shows like the in room little like tick or something. Like, I'm a fan of those, so I think that would be nice if we had more of those in in auctions. So I think it adds a lot more flavor to the game.
Yeah.
But the one thing is that actually Iastia had given me her token to use, but I guess because it had her mark, I wasn't able to use it because it was, I don't know, it kept resetting to her.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that was unfortunate. Sorry, I'm still trying to get my camera to work. It doesn't
all
look
good.
like it is. So
Yeah, you probably, to give it to either, you would need to do the exact number, or the person who owns it has to communicate to them and use the number and the person. So
yeah, Zortandia said in chat.
no, yeah, I already messaged Rasmael, and he said that as if it, I guess if it resets to the person, they can't use it like that. So
weird.
yeah.
Hey Steve, if you go ahead and make a whole new link for the
Yeah,
webcam.
that's what I've been doing. I
Okay.
close my browser too, but it doesn't seem like it's working. I'm not really sure why.
Weird.
So
If you can get the link to happen or whatever, just put it in the Discord and I'll fix it up on the stream. So,
okay. Let me take a look at some of these the other auction items.
okay. And I'll pull them up on here too. Actually, I will stop fishing for the moment so it doesn't scroll off the screen.
Let's see. So the eel skin cloak, I think Mazian mentioned that to me, that he wanted to get that. And that only deals damage to like an attacker that's 15% of your health.
If they hit
your
your shield, yeah.
Okay. So, and it was funny because he mentioned it to me because of my class lead report about shield, which was my solution to was taking the equilibrium cost off of hitting shield. So, I mean, I guess if somebody doesn't have a trigger like in their system to raise upon hitting shield, like you could basically just kill yourself off of hitting somebody with an eel skin cloak.
That's very true. You would.
Yeah, I looked at that cloak too when it started, and then I was like, this sounds cool, but then my thought was like, that's a lot of ifs. Like, that's a lot of ifs for thousands of credits or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow.
but
And
yeah,
so, what are even some of these? I don't know. This dollhouse, 842 iron coins.
I honestly think it's just because it's something that's incredibly unique. Like it is super niche, has to deal with your actual house and stuff like that. So I think somebody just really wants something that's like super, what they feel is super unique with that. I
yeah,
could be missing something, but that's my feeling for it. I have no interest in it.
that's a pretty large amount of iron coins too. Considering
Yes.
Yeah,
that
I
they're
mean, and
pretty hard to get.
they're super hard to get. I mean, the only reason why I had so many, and just like, man, I'm trying to think what all I got from that. I think I got the vortex crystal. I got the sneezy head. I got like two or three other things, but that was because I bought the yearly iron coin or iron membership or whatever.
Yeah,
So, and that that gives you a whole year's worth of iron coins like all at
yeah,
once.
240, I
So,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, I was actually like, I decided, since we all know, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but like, everybody knows now that killing vermin's a little more lucrative than it used to be. So I was doing it earlier, and I was like, man, how much is the vermin bait? And I looked at it, and it's 30 iron coins. And I'm like, oh man, I have 15. So I was actually trying to just find 15 on market, and nobody responded. I was sad, but
Yeah, I was
yeah,
actually thinking about doing that because I mean there hasn't really been much going on in Atolia like the last week or 2 weeks. So I mean I've just been sitting here just running my router while I'm in another window playing WoW or something.
yeah,
And I mean I'm already up to like 600k gold. So it's definitely worth it now. I mean I don't know who who bumped up the gold on Vermin, but you are a fucking saint. So
God bless you, doing the Lord's
right,
work.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they're like 60 gold a piece now, is what the math is on it.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good.
Probably trying to make the milestones actually worth it because I don't know a person who didn't get the monthly milestone of like 1,200 vermin and go, fuck that.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you're having to do like, 1,200 vermin or whatever, it's just kind of a slog if it's not really worth your time.
I paid
So,
people for it. That's what I did. I would just tell the city, I'd be like, give me your vermin, I'll pay you this much for it,
yeah.
and then turn it in.
Yeah, yeah. Chaos Squid says in chat, yeah, it definitely seems more productive than fishing now. Yeah, I guess it's, yeah, probably. I mean, I can get about 400 fish in like 3 or 4 days and get 60k gold, and then that would be what's that would be a thousand rats right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's how
Yeah.
many rooms times 3 or 5 in a city. So yeah. I mean, but it's funny to me because like there's a lot of danger in it too, because like there is danger of people maybe wanting to bot it, obviously. And I remember on my old Shadow character, here back in 2004, 2005, my character's mentor, who sired him and made him a vampire or whatever, actually got literally permanently banned for botting beetles back then. Like, and it's pretty
Well,
wild.
I mean, as long as you're looking back at the screen, I mean, unfortunately, it's not going to be at this point not too much different from auto bashing or auto fishing to a degree, as long as you continue to look back at your screen and check back and make sure that you're actually looking. And
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. They were much more serious about checking on people back then.
Right.
The triggers were, the automation rules were also much tighter. Like, I'm pretty sure what we have as an auto bashing now would have been considered illegal back then.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I guess this is a good way to transition into, the whole bashing thing. I don't mind bashing. I think it's kind of just a mindless little thing. I tend to stick to the lower areas just because it's, something that I can kind of do like on the side and not have to worry about it too much. But I know that some people are very against automation and they like to be a little bit more hands-on with their bashing. So that's why they do some of these higher areas like, Dovin or, the new island at FTL or FTL or whatever.
F-Toll Island.
FTL Island, yeah. So some people like doing that. I'm not a fan of it. I mean, if I'm gonna bash, it's already, I don't know. There's nothing fun about bashing. It's just kind of you're doing it for something, either to offer to a god or get essence or get gold or get experience, and like the grind to get to 200 is already just such a fucking slog anyways that what's the point of making it harder than it has to be.
I'm actually one of those people who I only semi automate bashing, in which I let the system do target for me, and I do bash through a room with a button press, but I don't auto move or anything of that nature. And if the area is difficult enough, or I'm exploring or something like that, I still have an alias that I have specifically for killing things than manual targeting. I mean, for me, bashing can be very zen, especially just kind of getting into it and kind of watching it and choosing my routes and also surviving things that I consider challenging. Like, I actually haven't been back to Welto Trench, but because I had to do stuff last night. But I enjoy finding ways to get around challenging situations and killing things that are hard to kill uniquely, like going down into the what are they, the Forgotten Depths in Albedos with all of the abominations and stuff, the fungal abominations and
Yep.
horrors and everything like that.
Germado Warrens.
Yeah. So, well, no, not the Warrens, the Forgotten Depths,
Okay.
the ones that are through Eshal Warren that are complete darkness, and you have the abominations that smash you for like 3,000 health. Yeah.
Good times.
So yeah, but I find that fun. Like, I actually have to be paying attention, since it's in darkness. Auto bashing, unless you bring a torch, auto bashing doesn't work because there's nothing on IH unless you're using GMCP target lists. But if you don't bring a torch and you don't use GMCP, you actually have to manually target, hit things, kind of be aware of what you're hitting. And yeah, I find that enjoyable. So yeah, yeah, that's like one of the few places that torches worked at, is down there, because it's a darkness, and That's one of the few places that you actually want to bring a torch to if you wanted to pick up on IH what's around you.
I wonder if torch and blade fire works for that then, or if you have.
It could, but you'd
You
have
have a
to.
skill called Torch.
Yeah, yeah. You
I'm
can
like
actually.
I'm like the worst Templar.
It's
Yeah,
like a
the
thing you
lantern.
can use against the darkness that Sisson do and stuff in combat, but I don't know
Yeah.
if it just.
I have the artifact or the light artifact power.
Yeah.
Which I've tried to use a couple times in like magical darkness set in rooms, and it doesn't really work that great. And I think it fails most of the time.
So yeah, I wonder if torch and blade fire works. Actually, I'm gonna go test it while we're
Well,
talking.
you, as Otanya pointed out, you could do the lantern in hell, but that's what that's designed around because yeah, you just leave that in your inventory. And that's why there's so much darkness on Albedos in that area, because the intention is that you go by the lantern and then that's when you wander around, because there's lots of areas in Albedos where it's complete pitch darkness and there are aggro things that'll attack you. Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's a lot. There is actually quite a bit there. So
You know what? I think
You don't have to wield the torch, do you? It just has to be in your inventory and lit.
I think the torch you maybe have to, but the lantern you don't. If you get the lantern in hell, but it's just in your inventory.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I know there's actually magical darkness rooms in the Helba mines too.
Yep.
Oh, I forgot about that trap. That's fun.
Let me think. What am I filling next? Delphinium.
Let's see. I don't know. My favorite bashing area has probably got to be, even though it's a little like below my level, I still really like Dracum.
I don't go there. That's I know that's one of the ones that has actual mechanics though, right? Like
It's just that like the mobs just have a counterattack that can
And a
hit you for
critical.
that can hit you for 7k if you don't stop doing damage to him.
Mhm.
But I mean, for the most part, I run Sunder and it.
Your audio's acting weird, Steve. We might have lost him, guys.
I think so.
Well,
I let me think.
All right,
What's my
is that back?
You're back. You're back.
Yes,
Yep,
you're back.
Yep.
Yes.
I was gonna say that the only reason why I'm bashing Dracum lately is because they have this flare that drops there, the ghostly flare. It's like super low like chance of dropping, but I've been bashing it out for like the last month, and I've gotten one piece of this flare that takes 4 pieces to make.
That's so brutal.
Yeah,
that's so brutal. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, that kind of makes me think of both Lusternia and Achaea actually had their version of relics, talismans, and curios that you could get specific ones from specific areas. So I actually really like that because it gives more of a reason to bash than just experience and or gold. Because when it's just the two of those, it just becomes a formula of what's an efficiency formula. But when you're adding in this could drop or these things could drop, you give reasons for people to visit different areas or actually just go to just bash because like, okay, I really want this one cosmetic thing that I can't get any other way except killing things in this one area. So it gives an actual reward.
I'd be curious to see what the drop rate is on that flare.
Have you been keeping track of how many you got with how many runs you've done?
No.
Probably extremely low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably under 1%, if I had to guess. Probably 0.5% or less.
Imagine being a weregrock.
Imagine not being a werebear.
Hmm.
Werebear's best.
I mean, like which is fine. Like I get that the drop rates are supposed to be pretty low, because I mean otherwise, like what would be the point of assembling this pretty rare flare or pelt or whatever if
Mhm.
everybody could have it, So I think I just want to know the drop rate percentages, kind of just to know.
So you feel a little vindicated, basically.
Yeah.
We'll go back to fishing in a different spot.
I'm
I'm
trying
gonna
to think.
I'm gonna go to one of Bloodlock's little villages
Hmm.
and
I am
fish.
just restocking my shop.
But yeah, we talked about bashing there a bit. When in the forum thread, there's the idea that the challenge. Oh God, somebody's already there.
Hmm.
Oh, that'd be why it's almost empty of fish. Well, I guess I'll go back to my shop. That's okay. All right. Yeah. So, like, the difficulty is something that a lot of us have issues with. And, we were talking about this off stream last night. And, obviously, well, maybe not obviously. I think the important thing that I talked about in the thread was the intent of some of these new areas and how we don't have any information about the intent. Like, is the intent for you to manual bash them solo? Is the intent for you to have to group bash these? We don't really know. And my problem with it is like who are we supposed to specifically give feedback to about bashing areas? Like that's what I'd like to know personally. Unless somebody already knows that, and I don't know. But
No, I can, I mean, when it comes to these areas, really saying like upfront whether it's intended to be this, intended to be that. I mean, I can kind of get it, but at the same time, for me, it kind of breaks a little bit of immersion because I'm like, I don't really need to know what this area is for because it's an area that exists in a world that my character exists within. So the bashing component is, while it's a part of it, it's not its prime. I don't even want to say its primary purpose. We as players know whether their primary purpose or not, but we approaching it as whether or not its primary purpose is solo bashing, whatever, group, manual, whatever. Um, to me, kind of breaks a little bit of that immersion of if I'm thinking mechanics before I'm thinking story. I would say I do agree that no crit is definitely can be a huge issue because yeah, it does definitely drop your DPS and can make damage much more. That's honestly how we survive most places that are high
yeah,
level. Like you
vigor.
you your healing, it gets outpaced in 90% of these areas, high level areas, and it's only because of crits that you kill them before they kill you. Um, so it isn't necessarily like the story of bashing, but the area. Like if you're treating it as just a bashing area, you're completely ignoring the reason the area even exists. If you're just treating it literally, it's just a place to go kill things. So that's an approach you can choose to take, but it's not one I choose to take.
Yeah, yeah, and like we were talking about last night, it's like the difficulty of some of these areas like can be very opinion based and down to each individual. Like for example, ever since they reworked Volcano and I've come back and I've batched it a few times, I'm like, this is like Volcano to me right now. Oh, hey, thanks for the follow, Zadrakius. Volcano feels like, honestly, to me, very balanced. Like what I would like to see out of a bashing area. Like I honestly have to do a mix of manual and auto in Volcano. In that, like, I have to look in each room, see if there's too much stuff, and if there is, I skip it. If I go into a room and there's like a fire elemental and it's by itself, I can like turn my auto basher on for that room and kill it. That sort of thing. But like when you go into a place like Den of Shadows and you literally just attack one mob manually, and then you just get destroyed with like no recourse or no understanding of why you just got destroyed, like in like 3 seconds or less. Like it's just, I throw my hands up in the air. I'm like, I don't understand why this is like this, personally, but I don't know. Yeah, I could see that, Chaos Squid. I don't use fire, and I also have a little bit more resistance to fire than some people because I have the from where I have a level 20 antiquated gauntlet, I can give myself a resistance buff, and I always pick fire before I go to the volcano. So that's probably why I survive a little bit extra in there. But yeah, I could see that being annoying that things are immune to fire. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of the volcano. I mean, there's been times where I've gone through running my looking for miners or lessers, and I'll see if there's a lesser in the volcano, and I'll just straight nope out of there. Like it's just not
Right.
even worth it.
Yeah, you have to be careful in there for sure. And I guess you do have to be careful in all these new ones too. But like, I feel like at least with some of the experiences I've had so far in the two newer ones, it's like even if you're careful, you're still probably dead really quickly. Like, oh no, look at that! Look at that quote in chat. That's rough. For you VOD viewers, Austin says, "Quote: I'm looking for miners. Sryane 2021."
This will be the thing that prevents me from getting elected to Vanguard.
Yep, this is the
Oh
end.
no.
This is the end. Oh man. Hey Demonicus, thank you. Appreciate y'all coming. So, do you guys want to say anything else about bashing, or are we moving on to the next thing?
Well, I think there was a mention about lore hints in bashing areas, so I think that would be a good segue into discussing lore, because I know that we briefly touched upon that last time. And I know that it's hard for me as a returning player to get caught up on all this lore that's gone on over the last 10 years that I haven't been around. And there's a lot of it apparently that they had all these different things like the War of Night, they had the Mitrine War, all this shit with the Albedos gods that I missed out on. So, and there were a lot of people that were there for all that. So, and I really appreciate characters like Aisling who have been through all that, and they they're just like a total gold mine of knowledge.
Mhm.
So.
Does Shadow have anybody like that, you think, side in? Like,
We
as
have an
far as
entire
like a
we have an
individual?
entire okay, let's say
Sorry.
we have an entire guild
Oh,
dedicated
okay.
to, but specifically we have Aline, who
Oh,
is
we have a whole guild. What guild is that?
funny you mentioned that. No, but yeah, yeah, lore wise, we do have the archivists who, especially recently, that's their entire thing is making lists of everything, gathering knowledge, putting things together, keeping an idea of everything. So, for example, for the current things that have been going on with the cult, I've made 3 or 4 different posts regarding everything that's been happening with it, all of the artifacts, everything that's been happening. We've done role play around the items themselves, made notes about that, talked to the guild. The Den of Shadows, we did stuff with that. We have log notes about that. We have news posts about that. So we constantly make sure that we're refreshing amongst each other the lore that's going on with the game. And then if it's really in the past individually, we have Aline, who is a walking Wikipedia for Aetolia.
I think everyone can agree on that.
Yeah. So yeah, Aline. Yeah, she's there. I swear, there's nothing she doesn't know about the lore of the game.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. We some of the archivists are building more around that, and we kind of bring in different perspectives since we have some people from Bloodlock like Aline and Kelrez and Jaren, along with Spine's Reach, so we get that good mixture. And then we are working to push some of that out to the world as a whole after we scrub it clean of things we don't want the rest of the world to know. Um, but no,
Of course, of course.
but we try to give back in the ways that we can, at least RP wise, because that's kind of part of what we've redesigned the mission to be. So yeah.
So you guys, one thing I want to talk about with lore is like, where do you guys think it's going to go in the future versus where you would like it to go in the future? Like if you were someone that like had the ability to steer it in the future, where do you anticipate that it's going to go versus where you would like to see it go, or what you think is going to happen?
Um,
Just anything.
I
It doesn't have to be any, it could be a
well,
guild thing, it could be a world thing, like whatever.
the the thing with the world is, I mean, we're eventually going to have a clash. We've been having this buildup of Albedos versus Sapiens for what, a decade now, a real life
Yeah,
decade.
like 10 plus years.
Um,
Yep.
yeah. So eventually, someday in 2022, or not 2022, I mean 2220 or something like that, to couple thousand years down the line, we are eventually going to have a clash because that's how it's been built up, us versus them. It is difficult to kind of see how they're going to take it though, just because it's such an overarching story that it's going to take a lot of small things feeding into big things to really get it to go somewhere. But I'm a part of me is I I'm kind of on the fence with that because it's really hard when it comes to the us versus them, because it kind of eats a little bit into the conflict between the organizations, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because yes, we disagree with our theologies, we disagree with the use of shadow, we disagree with this, and our lore is different, and et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, we all know that, or at least I don't say we all know, but there's a general agreement that the biggest and baddest enemy of all is Albedo. So even if we all disagree, we all at some point have to quote unquote come together to protect ourselves from annihilation.
Right.
And that just makes it really difficult to push um, the moral narrative between the organizations as hard as it could be, because we know eventually we're probably going to have to come together anyways. So, but that's going into conflict versus just lore. But yeah.
What do you think, Steve?
I mean, I definitely think that there's got to be some big, some big battle. The kind of a come together. Just like Satan said. I mean, in terms of like the direction, like after that, I mean, I guess they've been talking about. Somebody mentioned having like airships or something that that we could do, or ships in general. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure. I think that one of the comments from Austin was that somebody talking about how it feels like it doesn't have a rudder. I can't remember where that was. Yeah, he said it feels rudderless. I'm not sure what Overworld is. I guess is that supposed to be Albedos?
Or the overarching world, like the entire world.
Oh, Overworld lore. Okay. Yeah. Basically, like the whole story in general. Like there's just little teeny tiny little cutscenes or whatever going on right now. So I mean, I'm not really sure where the direction is going. I mean, I guess personally, if I could steer it, I guess I would. I don't know. I think it's nice to have like a common enemy, to fight every now and again. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you have two separate tethers, who are doing their own thing. And I think it would be better if there was more direction for those tethers, rather than, falling into the typical, I don't know, like the WoW style, story trap of, oh, we got to come together to fight the Lich King, or we got to come
Right.
together to fight, Deathwing, or oh god, that rascally Sylvanas is at it again,
Yeah. The Star Wars MMO even did it. The
Right.
Empire and the Rebellion or whatever, or the Empire and the Republic come together to fight the Eternal Empire or whatever. Like it's a pretty common trope for.
Yeah. So I mean, but
Yeah.
if you think about it, like at the core of things, like what what does Shadow really do? Other than just spray paint graffiti on shit and just kind of cause a ruckus. And it kind of seems like that Spirit Side is just like the that peaceful homeowner who's just trying to just live out their life, and they they're chasing kids off their lawn who are toilet papering their trees. Like,
Hey now, Shadow is the one who's attempting to live their best life. We're attempting to just have fun and be chill. And then we have Spirit at like 9:30 at night calling the cops over a noise disturbance, even though all we're doing is playing music a little bit louder than,
Yeah.
2 inches above off.
They just want to shake down people at the Grand Library, man. We should leave them alone.
right? Yeah. So I mean, it just doesn't seem that there's a whole lot of direction, towards either tether. I
Yeah.
mean, Spirit Side, I guess ours is to, I don't know, ours is to cure vampirism and get rid of all the undead. But it's like, what's the plan after that?
Right.
Yeah.
What happens when we get there? Like, do we just pack up Atolia? Thank you for thank you for trying to log in. The game's over.
Game's over. Nothing to see
Ladies
here.
and gentlemen, we got him.
Aetolia 2 is right around the corner.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Phoenicia in
Return
chat.
of the Crystal Leaf.
Like Phoenicia says in chat, like organizations kind of had no purpose or agency; they just kind of exist, and it's like, I think that's kind of what we're all saying is like, if you don't have like something pushing you forward, your whole purpose is just to exist.
Right.
Hey, thanks for the follow, Father Crime. What I want to say about it is that like, I think that they've taken so long with the Albedo stuff that it's hard to even feel like it's a threat when nothing ever happens with it. Because you can only have a threat that looms so long before it's just like, okay, bro, you're like, okay, boomer, like you tell me that the Albedos gods are so bad and awful, but like when I've literally seen one of them in 2 real life years, it's like, how are you supposed to take that seriously? Like, so I think personally it would behoove them to kind of conclude that, like try to move along and conclude that in the next year or so. Like, that's what I would do. I know that seems like not a lot of time for something that's been around for 10 plus years, but like, get past it and then you can actually tell different stories finally. And like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's going to be hard to divorce away from Albedos right now with what they're doing, because unfortunately, with the way that it's been written, it is the biggest, baddest thing that is happening and will happen. So I do agree that hopefully we can eventually start seeing momentum on that, but we'll wait and see where that goes and how they choose to do it and everything. I'm not holding my breath that we'll see it end anytime soon, but I'm hoping we do see some kind of movement on that. I would say, to talk a little bit what's going on with chat is, yeah, I do agree that players can definitely drive. They can and they should. I would say even should drive the organization a lot and for a lot of things. You can definitely hit a snag with what's going on with the organization, especially if admin do jump in and take over. At which point you're kind of stalled because you're kind of waiting because you don't have anybody who have the proper permissions, or you have an oversight that you really can't do anything with until you're given reins back again. But if you don't have that like roadblock and you have people who are involved in the organization and stuff, I I would argue that 97, 98% of what you're doing, you can build up on your own and around the people. You just gotta find whatever that niche is that you want that organization to be and try to fill it. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to maybe work perfectly, but there's a lot that you can do around that. I would say the one difficulty right now is just the effort that would go in to do that, because it takes time and effort to give an organization purpose when it doesn't really have one. Or to even more difficult is redirecting that purpose into something similar but slightly different, to which is easier to work with or easier to provide RP hooks as a player to then build out and around from. So it's the game isn't young and it's not new, so organizations have a lot of baggage to work through, so that makes it a lot more difficult to just get them and give them purpose with basically you're not taking it fresh, you're taking everything that's happened before and attempting to do something with it from there.
I guess the thing that kind of bothers me is that, there's all this mention that Atoli is not a new thing. Like, I mean, shit, it's been around for, 16 years?
Something like
That
yeah.
you think that they would kind of figure out a way to, to move things along. You know,
I
there
agree.
would be like I don't know, there would be like a general sense of direction, but it seems like that it kind of varies from producer to producer, that they're just kind of just winging it in terms of like, what direction they want the game to go in,
Yeah.
So like we have all these, like Atoli is supposed to be, like a PG-13 game, but it's not really a PG-13 game. I mean, you have all this like gratuitous type of, violence and stuff like that. So it's like, what type of game are we really trying to be here? Where's the direction? It seems like that we're saying, verbally that we want to do something, but based on all the, the mechanics and stuff that we have, we're kind of like afraid to take that next jump, which is really limiting us in terms of where we want to go.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and a lot of it too is because like with the PG-13 thing is like again we talked about off camera last night, is like that might have been fine to have that be the case when we were all like teenagers, early 20s, but like
Right.
it just has not changed over time. Like we're still trying to be PG-13 in a game that has a bunch of late 20s, to late 30s players typically, which is pretty bizarre, honestly. Especially since, like I mentioned last night, like look at the fact that like some of the stuff you can't have because of that, but then like I can go to a lesser and I can rip someone into pieces literally with quarter, like, or
Right.
disembowel
Yeah.
them, and like it talks about innards and like it's pretty wild. But
Yeah, like this weird, like, westernized, kind of view that like, that violence is okay, but sexual stuff is still very like taboo. So I mean, I don't know if any of the the pools people are watching this, but I would love to have nipple rings as a thing
right,
permanently.
yeah. And I think that that's kind of a segue into what we wanted to talk about.
The big takeaway of this is give us nipple rings,
right.
or
It's important.
or give us death.
Yeah. Don't tread on me, like I want my
Yeah.
nipple rings. Well, he wants his nipple rings. I don't want nipple rings. I could probably do with my character actually wearing some clothing. I always forget to go buy basic clothing and I just wear armor. So what do I need nipple rings for? But it's like
It's a very small holster.
yeah, it's like I don't understand what's wrong with that. Like who cares? Like let people have nipple rings. Like it's not like it's a sex toy or something extreme like that,
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I guess in terms of that, I've heard that there have been other MUDs that once you pass like a certain line where you start to allow stuff, it just gets really it just kind of spirals out of control.
Yeah.
Like there's I mean, I don't really know very much about that other mud haven, but I've heard that
Mhm.
it's pretty lawless over there. You know, in terms of like all the stuff that just goes on, and it's like, do we like want to risk kind of opening up that box and allowing people to, to kind of just run with whatever they feel like they want to run with? Or do we want to have like this kind of hard line in the sand that kind of prevents us from doing certain things because I don't know. I guess it's because it's safe.
Yeah.
I think it really what it comes down to it comes down to proper measures and proper control. Um, the old that's a that's a logical fallacy of the well because you allow nipple rings, obviously this means in 3 years we're going to have people cosplaying as rabid ducks, reenacting Crystal Leaf in acts at the middle of an Orion.
Oh boy.
Oh my god.
So I mean there's that disconnect of just because really what it comes down to is yes, it could be seen as a gateway, but really it's like, okay, so we are fine with allowing these things because colloquially they are not really outside the realm of PG-13, quote unquote, perhaps where they maybe were before, but we understand that we only allow these things. Anything above and beyond that, we do not. But that just really requires much more hands-on, which, crafting, since we know that Becky is a shell, not really a dedicated role per se. Well, dedicated-ish. Like the person who's chosen for it, I'm pretty sure is dedicated, but they
Mhm.
don't inhabit that shell all the time.
Right.
So it can be really hard to keep as tight of a leash on what's going on in the crafting world and stuff. And so I could see the like, well, you allow nipple rings and someone goes, oh, well, that means I can start doing these other types of piercings. And because you can't just get a quick answer from Becky, people go whatever and approve it. So yeah, slippery slope fallacy. No, I don't think if we allow nipple rings, it's going to suddenly start spiraling into, um, you know, going beyond that. But I do think introduction to things could do some wonders for where we are with crafting without it going too crazy. But then again, crafting is it? Yeah.
Yeah. We will definitely get into crafting at some point, and I would like to have somebody that's like super into crafting. I know that like all of us have the ability to craft here, but I want somebody that's like super into it to talk about it with us. And Razani said she might be willing to come on to do that, so we'll probably have Razani on a future episode for that, and whoever else wants to come on and talk about crafting. But yeah, yeah, and what I'd like to say about the general atmosphere of the game is like the way I play the game is that I like always hope something's going to happen, and I think that I wish we had a game where things were always happening, and it's kind of disappointing that they're not. But at the same time, I do understand the argument that you should just make things happen. But it's funny because like if you sit down and like, okay, if I was going to try and make things happen, and this is coming from somebody who did go and make things happen in the past on Empyrean, as you know, Siden. Like I would go
Hmm.
out and make things happen. If you go and you make things happen, like if I say, okay, for example, a couple weeks back, Shadow wasn't participating very much in group combat. Like that's just a fact. Like I can go back and read the logs and stuff to you, and that might have a million different reasons, and that's fine. But like, what? Why should I not be able to then go and raid and make somebody fight me? Well, you mentioned that, and then you get a million different excuses from both sides as to why you would not want to raid. But then in the same breath, all of us are also complaining that there's nothing going on.
Well, you
Like,
can go raid. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. You can go do it if you want to.
Right. I mean, the like the I
You'll
don't know.
die
I mean,
yeah,
horribly,
oh, I'm
yeah. I
fine with
mean,
but
there's
that.
you can go do
those
it.
huge. I mean, once you hit like level 170 or 175, like the XP like detriments of like dying inside of an enemy city, like in PvP combat, I think you lose like 3 times the amount of XP. You know,
Something
and
like that, yeah.
that's like literal days, if not like a week of.
So
of,
basically,
of
rating
straight
is
action.
deterred by XP loss, right?
Right, it's deterred because and I'm pretty sure that we were all around, back in old Atolia where raids happened all the time, and you'd have. I remember going on a few, notable raids with, Desian and Mazian and Cadvar and I think Benedicta when he was, in Durrani, and we just swept through all of old Enorian, and we're just walking around like free men, and basically just killing anybody who dared step to us. And and it was like a really kind of shitty to be on the receiving end of that, because what can you do except just try to tell these people to to get out of your city, and they're just going to laugh at you and say, well, make me. And I think that having that that big XP loss penalty kind of like deters raids, but now it's a little bit too heavy-handed in the point where nobody wants to do it. And I know that we have some Templar rights for post knighthood progression that you can only complete if you raid an enemy city. But like, I don't know of any Templar who have completed that yet.
No.
Well, and for me, and I'll definitely agree with chat in this. Just raiding without any RP reason behind it doesn't actually do anything meaningful, especially if it's only 1 or 2 people. It's okay. You come and you try to kill somebody. You try to start something in the city with raiding. Okay, great. But what does that actually contribute to anything? It might get you some roleplay with a couple people, possibly, but more than likely that's going to be spurring just mechanical PK between you and other people who were involved. For me, for getting things happening, requires the engagement in RP both inside and outside a circle. So for example, to get things done, typically, like if I'm wanting to see something happen or something, I typically have to go out there and reach outside of my usual circle of people and talk to them or ask them what's going on or do a little RP, or I will go stand somewhere that I'm not usually standing, or I will bother someone about something in the city or the guild, or I'll ask, hey, so this recently happened, here's a task that I can give you to, or would you be willing to do this task to gather stuff? And that creates RP because that requires them to go do something. For example, the Den of Shadows, I gave the task to somebody else who was kind of involved, but not really, to gather all the information and collate that into a book for the archivists, which required them to go out and talk to multiple different people to gather that information to actually put it together, and that in itself created roleplay and roleplay interactions. While that didn't benefit me directly, it did create some meaningful RP within the side around me. So that's, wars can be fun if they're done right. Wars can be horrible if they're done wrong, and we've seen them done wrong so many different times.
Oh yeah.
Raids, again, if they have good RP reason behind them, I'd be cool with them. Like if the Templars decided that they are going to decide that they're going to spread the light, and what they mean by the light is they mean fire, and by fire they mean they're going to burn down Spine's Reach.
There's actually
okay.
a term for it in the guild. It's called doing a cleansing. That's like a legit thing. It's in our G hubs and stuff. But like what I want to say about it is like everybody always says that too when we talk about wars and we talk about raids. We say, it can really suck. It can be really fun, but then like nobody ever does it. So we only get the part where like it's what if. It's always what if with like conflict like that. Like it's like everybody wants something to happen, but everybody's also afraid to enable something that happened before that felt bad for everyone. So we just don't try it anymore. And then I don't know.
I'm incredibly wary of starting big group conflict like that because you have a lot of these older returning players, and you tend to fall back into that trap of just endless revenge PK, which is not fun. I mean, me and I don't know if any of you guys remember Curl, the old paladin.
Yeah.
He and I, we used to just brawl all the time. We used to brawl all the time because I think at one point he killed me and then I went and killed him, and I think it went on for years and we didn't even really know how it started, but it just and this is something that has kind of always been a thing in Atolia, and it's just kind of silly. And I think that personally, I don't like to, I don't want to involve myself in going to raid a city because I don't want to get back to that cycle of where I kind of always have to wonder if somebody's gonna, if somebody's gonna come jump me, for some raid to collect whatever pound of flesh they feel that they're owed.
Yeah, and I think PK is cool, but I don't think relying on PK mechanics as a conflict generator, like it is good conflict. It can be good conflict. I won't disagree with that. But relying upon those mechanics as your main motivator around your conflict generation is you're going to constantly stall because people are going to get bored of the mechanics. The PK should be a supplement to the role play conflict that you're generating around it, which that in itself is its own discussion, but that's also going to take time of, okay, the Templars want to cleanse an area. That's going to require someone, let's identify an area. Why does it need to be cleansed? Who's going to do the cleansing? What are we going to do during the cleansing? And maybe some PK could be involved with that. If people come to interrupt it, you could make a news post of anyone who's not a Templar is going to get immediately attacked, or anyone not a Norian, and that could be your PK angle to it. But you gotta start with that role play core, and then PK can just supplement around it. A perfect example is when Bloodlock took back El Jazeera. They made it publicly known that anyone who came there, even Spine's Reach, would be immediately killed, would be PK'd. And otherwise, it was some bashing, but there was a lot of role play going on too with that conflict. So it was a role play conflict event where PK was a supplement if you showed up in a way that was not fitting with the role play that they had already established. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, is that you got to start with the role play first and then use the mechanics around you as supplement to make that role play more in depth and more what's the word I'm looking for? More I don't want to say visceral, just beefier, more whatever. I can't think of the word. Immersive. Thank you. Yeah. So that's at least where I'm at. Every role play has to be where you start with everything.
Yeah, sure. And I like the role play with with the rest of everyone else too. It's just that like if there's I don't know, like at a certain point, like if everything is just talking, whether it's role play or whatever, it's like where does it all end? Like I don't know. I just feel like there's no like lessers and majors are so boring, and everybody like knows that. Especially if you do them a lot. Like they're obviously not as boring for people that are new to them. They're like, oh, this is cool. Look at all the experience I'm gaining. But like, if our main conflict in combat is like so structured and just samey, it's like where are the stakes between the tethers? Like I just personally don't understand it. Like, and then you say, well, that comes back to the Albedos stuff. Oh, the Albedos stakes for all of us. It's just so great. But then also, like I said before, you don't see anything happen with that. So it's like what are we doing here? Like I don't know. Like I just wish there was something like incredible that we could really do as an organization that's actually interesting, other than just being interesting to us. as an organization. I don't know.
I mean, I think that that's what every organization ideally would want, and I think that the org recs are like a good thing for that. But I mean, we've done a couple things recently in the Templar where we've gone to an area and RP'd, like cleansing it or whatever. I think we recently did, the Lich Gardens, but there's nothing lasting that comes of that. So it's basically just a glorified bashing trip. Unless you want to try and coordinate with like an opposing force to kind of have like a little scuffle, but then nobody's going to want to agree to something that they might potentially lose,
Which
especially
to me,
if you're trying to make your organization look good.
well, that to me is part of the problem. If you're not willing to lose, how invested are you really willing to be?
Right. But I mean, I'm just saying that nobody, just people in general, nobody likes to lose.
Right.
So, like, if like, say the Carnifex approached, me or Kalina, and we're like, hey, we want to run this guild event where we, go to this place and we emerge victorious from this thing. Would you guys be interested in, like participating in that? I'm like, well, why would I want to? Because, I mean, it's basically just, a way for you to kind of like, to have like a big boner and just say how great you are, like, I don't.
And that is a discussion to have, and that comes down to talking about how and what the event, and comes down to planning and plotting. If the event is just a masturbatory event, then yeah, I can agree with wanting to kind of be like, maybe not, because it's not really giving my chance for me and or my organization to have something to grow off of. Loss is an excellent conflict generator, and it's also an excellent opportunity for an individual and an organization to grow. Because when you lose, you're required to, you're not required, but what you should be doing, hopefully, is you should be confronting whatever it was that had you lose. Was it poor planning? Was it poor tactics? Was it betrayal? Was it, whatever? Not enough spirit juice in them bones that gave you the power to channel fire. So, it with if you are always winning, there's actually a perfect example of that was an excellent episode of Twilight Zone back, I think, in like the 1960s, of basically, and the summation of the guy was he was winning everything. He was winning. He was dead. He thought he went to heaven. He had a beautiful apartment, beautiful women, winning every gambling, had beautiful cars. And it became boring. Winning all the time gets boring. So loss is, a requirement for growth. And yeah, no, I agree with you, Austin, that people do need to, people do need to be much nicer about each other when it comes to losing, and themselves about losing too. Like, if it should be a thing where we should all, if we all approached more, if more people approached events with the I'm willing to lose, and that was a group mentality, not just a one-side mentality, I think we could see an improvement with events overall. Because if everyone is willing to lose, even if it's their own event, then we could see more complex ideas come out of that.
Right. I mean, I think that people might be a little bit more afraid to be willing to lose, because I mean, if you look at like the Indorani Guild, I mean, they made just like a historically awful decision, and like their whole guild got nuked.
Right.
So I mean, if that is like the stakes that are on the table, that if you're willing to lose, and like you could lose on like huge levels if you make the a wrong decision.
But as I understand with that one, it wasn't just one decision. It was lots of decisions all stringing together that became that ultimate destroying decision. So it's kind of like, it wasn't one mistake. It was a string of mistakes that all became this major thing. I could be wrong. I wasn't around. So please, somebody correct me.
Right. I wasn't around either. So this is just from what I heard.
Yeah. But typically when it's something that destroys an organization or something like that, it's not just one mistake. It's a series of bad decisions that I'm just look. It's a series of bad decisions that then become the big decision that ends. It's kind of like it, drunk driving. Drunk driving isn't a bad mistake. It's a series of decisions that got you to that really bad decision
Mm-hmm.
of getting behind the wheel intoxicated. So it's I would say that again, if I knew more about it, I could possibly know more about it. Well, I mean, yeah, so it was one issue, but again, a lot of stupid choices. So it wasn't okay, it was one issue, but there was a lot of choices that went into it that ended up with that destruction of that guild. That's what I'm getting at. So I would say that one loss isn't going to see your org destroyed. But if you continue to make poor decisions, then sure. But hopefully your leadership isn't continuing to make such bad decisions over and over and over and over and over again that ends up happening. That would at least be my hope.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
like.
I mean,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that I know that ended badly, obviously, for the Indorani because there were stakes, but I still think that having stakes are important, and I just don't feel like we have a lot of stakes anymore. I guess that's my ultimate point from what I was saying is like, what are the stakes of anything right now? I don't think we have a lot of stakes. I don't know. That's just my opinion, though.
That's fair. I mean, there's not a lot of mechanical stakes at the moment. And that can come down to people choosing to make their own and how they choose to approach their role play. I could see that there being some more mechanical things to be put on the line. That could definitely benefit stuff. But at the same time, we just had that discussion. How much stakes and which stakes are made? Because
Right.
what if there are mechanical stakes and then someone ends up blowing up an Orion?
I mean, yes, that would suck for those of us that are in a Norian, but at the same time, personally, I would look at it as like, okay, my home's blown up. What do I do next? And then that leads you to a whole new path, and I find that entertaining, like personally. But I know that there's then some people that are like, oh God, I lost everything. This game sucks. I quit. Like I get that there's two sides to that coin, but
yeah, when it comes to organization stuff, I'm kind of like if and or on that because there could be a lot of people affected who had absolutely no input into the decisions that cause the organization to go down whatever path it might have with being blown up, being
right,
changed,
that's
whatever.
fair. Yeah.
Individual or plot stakes, those I think we do need more like plot stakes when we do events. I would love events where it was in a way where if something didn't happen, we didn't find something out, or people contributed to something else in a way that it caused the event to go sour. And we were all just left there going, oh, well, that sucked, which could be good. We kind of quote unquote failed. But, when we individually, we can hopefully, make some of our own stakes. And I mean, I do agree, Austin, that we shouldn't have no stakes just because some folks can get mad about it. But again, when it comes to organization, it isn't just that some folks get mad about it, it's that the folks who sometimes get mad about it are the ones who had absolutely no agency in the decisions
Right.
to make those events happen. That is a legitimate grievance to me. Because if I
Yeah.
had no agency, if I was not given a chance to vote, I didn't even know this thing was happening, it was all kept in closed doors behind a group of people, and they destroyed everything, I'd be fucking pissed.
Right. Especially when it's been so long since anything like that has happened, and that we're in a new norm now where stuff like that doesn't happen. So it's like if that happened out of nowhere, that would feel bad for a lot of people. But I also think, speaking of like doing things where you're going to lose, it's like at the same time, to me, it's like not doing anything at all, which is where we're at a lot of the time anymore, also feels like we all lose, in my opinion. Like, like it's not just being afraid to do something because you're afraid to lose means that you're going to lose anyway because
Yeah.
then you didn't do the thing. Like, I don't know. It's just the way I look at it. And there's
Yeah,
also a
and
twin
See
going
that.
on right now.
yeah.
Mm.
Um Go ahead, Steve. You're about to say
I was
something.
going to say that one of the things that I used to do in the when the Infernals were still around was kind of like taking a page like out of Fight Club, and any of the squires. I'd say one of your requirements in order to be to get knighted is you need to go out, you need to go pick a fight, and you need to lose that fight. Like pick a fight with somebody that that you're just going to get just absolutely wrecked. And that was because everybody should know what it's like to feel loss, to not be victorious, and that you're the only way that you're going to get better is to lose, and
Right.
I think that was a great decision, in terms of the direction that the Infernals went. And I mean, I had a blast, uh, leading the Infernals. It was such a great guild, and I feel like we had a great sense of purpose and sense of identity. And I would love to kind of get back to that with the with the Templar, but it seems like we're kind of lost right now. We're like the Templar feel less like Space Marines and more like Boy Scouts helping an old lady cross the street. So
Go do your patrol. There might be a little Lady Dwarf over in Tainhelm who needs you to help her across the bridge.
yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, like I know it's only relatable to me and Steve here, but yeah, it does feel like Templar. I was thinking that last night. I was like, man, it feels like we're in a bit of a lull right now in this guild. Like,
So let me ask you guys. You guys want to change, and again, I know there's many factors behind this, but what's stopping you?
I mean, I guess technically nothing. We've had a lot of huge dip in membership and activity recently. So I mean, really, just looking at Jihu. I mean, it's just me and Eric's online right now. But I mean, for the rest of the time, it's randomly Kalina, randomly Iastia. We maybe have one or two squires that pop around, so it's very difficult to kind of drum up interaction with the other knights in our guild. And I mean, I guess that's sort of kind of a cop out, because even when we did have more knights, we really didn't do anything either.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, Phoenicia kind of hits it on the head. Is that we could do stuff. Like how I mentioned that we did that cleansing of the Lich Gardens or whatever, but there's no lasting impact there. So it's basically just a glorified bashing trip that kind of gives you like the warm fuzzies for 30 seconds before you kind of go back to doing your own thing. So I'm not saying that every guild needs to have like a mechanical way to make a lasting impact, or some type of change that like a giant ugly ass statue in the Lich Gardens. Not everybody needs that.
right.
But I mean, it would be nice to have it would be nice to have like little things to kind of
Yeah.
as like like team building exercises.
Yeah.
But it's just like, where do you start? What do you do?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I had to speak to that, I mean, I would honestly say that you would start with deciding where and what you want your guild to stand for. Like, what do you want your mission to be? And when you have an idea behind that mission, you can then start looking at the tasks, the files, the books that are written, other things that define what your mission is, and if necessary, start rewriting them, revising them, and making them into something that fit with what you want that mission to be. And during that, if you hopefully have your leaders who are attempting to live that mission and show that this is our new identity. The mechanical stuff is great, but we know we can't count on that. Like, we can't count on the admin to give us something special that leaves a mechanical benefit or gives us something mechanical that shows that this is our mission. But what we can control are the G help files, the help file for the guild, and how we interact with other people.
Yeah.
And we can at least influence and shape that into something that we want. You don't want the Templars to be Boy Scouts, okay? And I understand that there's no mechanical, no lasting impact, so that makes it hard to do on a world stage. I 100% agree with that. But what's stopping that internally from changing your mission into being what you want the Templars to be?
Well, what I want to say about the Templars in particular is that and guilds in general is like let's take Templars and your archivists for example. So archivists, it can be probably a lot easier to do this sort of stuff because like you're very research based, which can be very very like role play oriented. Like you can have people chill in your guild hall and like do research or talk about research, and that's like a thing that you can do. But with guilds like Carnifex and Templars being very military driven, it goes back to what we just talked about earlier with conflict and war and stuff. So like it's basically like how you used to have near the end of the age of the samurai, you had no wars, but you still had all kinds of samurai, and they didn't know what to do with their lives. Like that's the way I look at it with the Templar. It's like we, the entire time I've had Eric's, and he's 30 years old, and I started him, he was 18. There's not been a single war to fight, not one, not even a little bit. And so I mean, you have this military group of people. We have ranks. We have like we act like a military unit, but there's no big war to fight or anything. It's kind of like going back to what you said about Fight Club. You know, it's like one of the speeches from there. Like our war is a spiritual war and all that, and our Great Depression is our lives or whatever. You know, like I love that movie by the way, but like I wouldn't say it's depressing in the Templars either. It's just like it would be a lot easier to be effective as a guild if there was some kind of big fight or war or something. That's why like last night when we had that little actual real PvP conflict with Almol in chat, I went in there and I was just playing the Templar, jumping into somebody that asked for help. Like that's what we're supposed to do as a guild. And I went in there and I didn't care if I died or not. Like because I was like finally getting to play my role and it was really cool. But
I mean, I think that was great. Being able to to jump in and go help out a citizen that that called for aid on CT.
yeah,
But it was like the ensuing stuff that I think you had actually you had left, or you had like logged off for the night. As that was kind of like becoming a bigger thing. But I mean, this went on for like hours of like just revenge attacking, and it's like, at what point does that keep going? Like I didn't sign up for that. Like as much as it's all for the Templar RP, I'm just in terms of like you tend to blur the lines with the PK rules of are you gonna like harass this person until you pull out a victory, even though you've taken 6, 7, 8 losses. Like
right.
no, like you don't get to constantly hunt somebody over
Right.
whatever you feel is some guild code or city code or whatever that somebody wasn't honorably discharged, so you got to kill them. Like, I mean, there's been plenty of bloodshed already spilled over this one person. So
No, I agree, and that has to come down to player and personal responsibility of where do you draw a line and how do you define that line, and how do you work around that RP. You may see your RP well, your character wouldn't back down, but at the same time, when do we got to be willing to draw a line at some point. I wasn't involved in that, so I'm not going to comment too much about it. But that's actually about as much as I'm going to comment on it. Actually,
Yeah.
is that we just have to accept personal and player responsibility at some point. So
Yeah, and it's just like I said, all the different guilds have things that their role play is meant to do, and in that you're supposed to strive to do in that role as a person that's in that guild, and for the ones like Templar and Carnifex that are built around military, it's really hard to feel that when there's no need for a military, you know.
So okay, so I'll like address that. Did that me and Rasani and Iastia and Eric's, I think we were the ones that were mostly involved in that whole thing yesterday.
Mhm.
And I mean, yeah, it is part of our RP, as Templar to kind of like, defend the weak and, protect the innocent and, stuff like that. I mean, as city mates, I mean, if Scanlan hadn't called for help on CT, I probably wouldn't have gone. And I
Right.
think that that's pretty fair that anybody in any city, if they, called for help on, on the city channel, that they would go, defend their city mate. I don't think that's even a question that that anybody here wouldn't do that.
Right.
But I think the ensuing PK engagements after that anybody for that me, Iastia and Rasani and Eric's, we were trying to de-escalate the situation, and only really just defending ourselves from being attacked or defending Rasani after NPC mobs and her tavern got killed or whatever. Like I didn't, I wasn't jumping into that and being like, oh yeah, like I get to kill, I get to fight the whole, fucking Carnifex guild by myself, It was just like, show up, defend the citizen, boom, like done,
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like that, as I mentioned earlier, that nobody really likes to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always about, coming out the victor because everybody has such a hard time swallowing their fucking pride. So
Yeah, I
and
mean,
I don't want to sit in my city, because I don't feel like that I, really did anything worth getting, jumped over or, I mean, if you're just defending somebody against somebody else who's being like an aggressor, you know, you don't get to have like unlimited, revenge PK on somebody.
yeah, and sadly,
This is going back to like the old days of Atolian PK, which is why I mentioned the curl thing. That I mean, technically, if neither one of you wanted to let it go, and you wanted to keep going until you won or you made your point or whatever, like you just have an endless cycle of PK, and I think that's a very dangerous, place to go back to again.
yeah, that's kind of where, like, again, talking about Empyrean, that's where Empyrean was for a long time. But the thing about that game was that, like, people knew that ahead of time, and, like, that was kind of the appeal of that game. Like, PK was, like, a lot bigger of a thing on that game, whereas, like, on Aetolia, it's much more structured. It's supposed to be less of the Wild West, and sadly, it seems like in that case, the only recourse you really have is to either just deal with it or issue someone, which sucks. Like, either of those situations kind of suck. Because I don't like having to ever be in a situation where I feel like I have to issue someone. Like, if I issue someone, I don't feel good about that. I feel like that's like a last resort. Like, and if I have to do it, I'm like, man, this kind of sucks that I have to do this. But if it's the only option, then there it is. Like, but I did log off it last night. Like, I sat with you guys at North of Trees for a little bit. Nothing was happening, and then I had to go to bed. So I guess I missed the rest of it. But that does suck that you spent all night dealing with such a thing over just trying to
I mean,
assist your city mate.
that's not to say that that it was such a bad thing, because I mean, near the end of that, we did have some RP in North of Trees with Aline and Alela, and the whole lot of us were there and talking, and it was I mean, that was fun. Like, I enjoyed
Yeah.
the cross tether RP, like it
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess I've always been the type of person that I enjoy my my PK with a side of RP. So
yeah, and it
but
happens so infrequently nowadays too. So that when
right,
it happens like that, it's actually kind of interesting. It's like
right. Like, I
it's
mean, I
notable.
think that when I pulled up at North of Trees and Almo was sitting there, I was like, are we gonna fight, or are we gonna are we gonna talk, or are we gonna make out, or what's going on here? So, but
Why not all three?
unfortunately, no making out, just a lot of talking. So
Yeah. No, and I mean, again, I'm not going to say if and when and how people should take a step back. I understand it's a slippery slope, and it's easy to say it from a hindsight or even from an outside perspective of, you should consider taking a step back and drawing a line and stuff like that. And I get in the moment that it can be extremely hard to do. As long as we're considering the RP behind it, it makes sense for our characters. We're not griefing people. I think, we can hopefully try to find some sort of balance there. And hopefully when it comes to these situations, especially if it starts as an RP situation, hopefully we're approaching it with roleplay first and PK second. So that way we can not get into these loops of the revenge PK or people just attacking each other mechanically, because, it might be a good opportunity for role play or for cross faction RP or for situations that might not happen normally if we were just to rely on our systems to hopefully kill the other person, or groups of people to kill other people, kind of situations, and kind of see where that comes from. So again,
Right.
wasn't involved, so I'm not gonna I can't say too much about that, but I can at least say that some of the best RP I've had have been conflicts where it could have gone mechanical PK, but I didn't, and chose instead to do fist swinging and stuff and emotes and things like that with, claw swiping in Sai's case, but rather than leaning on the mechanical and kind of seeing what came from that.
Well, this is for the VOD, since the person that we had this conflict with, Almol, is actually in chat, and he responds with, I mean, I had fun. I just hate the next day feeling like my fun came at the expense of someone else because a further uninvolved fifth party said so. Because the game isn't about messing up other people's fun. We should all be having fun.
No, I agree 100%. If we're not having fun, it's not a game.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe that got lost in my little rant, but I mean, I did have fun. I mean, I did not have fun. I mean, I guess it's just the whole thing just seemed a little weird because it was a lot of conflicting information about Sakara leaving the Carnifex, and I was under the impression that she was, getting her affairs in order, which included getting an honorable discharge from the guild, and it's completely within Carnifex RP to go after somebody and take their head, if they have a dishonorable discharge, or if they just abandon their oath. I mean, it's nothing that the Templar would do. Like, I mean, we don't go after people for moving to Spine's Reach. But I mean, again, it wasn't really Sakara that had called for help on the city channel. It was Scanlan, so
Yeah.
kind of just responding to him. So
Yeah, and sometimes, and that's we're taking, if again, that's not always an option in the moment, because moments get heated, things happen, people are swinging, people appear to be swinging, whatever. But sometimes if we can, that's where sometimes, if it's an option to take that step back, kind of see what's going on, assess the situation, see if any emotes are rolling out and things like that before we hit our alias, can kind of be helpful sometimes to gauge the situation to try to have the most fun for the most people. So yeah.
And then in addition to that, I can kind of play devil's advocate here in that, like, I understand that, like, because I don't get to roleplay a lot with the other side, that most of their impression of my character or seeing my character is usually he's about to attack them at a lesser. So that, like, when I run in there, his first response is start attacking me. It kind of makes sense because he probably just assumed I wasn't going to try and talk. And I probably would have tried to talk, but also I'd put my aura up, and he was already on my enemy list from being at lessers, and then I think my aura hit him first, and I just didn't think to turn it off ahead of time, because I usually leave it up all the time, and and then the fight started.
the old riot approach, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah, yep. It was the aura. He said, "Yep." Yeah, that
So,
was
yeah.
well, that wasn't intentional in that I didn't want to start the fight because of my aura, but at the same time, it's intentional in that like I have the aura up just in case all the time. So I don't know. Maybe we all could have done a little bit better there, but that's just the part of spontaneity within the game.
Mm-hmm.
So
And hey, we've talked it out. Yay, friendship, friendship. Okay, maybe not.
maybe not friendship, more like reasonable citizens of the game as a whole.
Oh, then I'm excluded then.
You're
I'm
not
not
reasonable? Okay.
No, I'm totally horrible. I don't
Yeah.
know why they keep me a city leader. In fact,
One more
Yeah, I mean,
thing I'd like to mention. It's kind of going back a couple of topics, but I just remembered it because I had wanted to talk about it. Is as far as like doing things as Templar, because the before you started playing again, Steve, and I don't know if this happened when you had made side in or whatever, but some time ago, it was like early 2020 when Benedicto was still guildmaster of the Templar. He did try to hold a guild event where we went out and tried to defile shrines of Iocene. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Um, like he actually would go and try to like do these cleansings and these things. But whenever that happened at the time, everybody just pooped on him all over the fact that it was a thing about defiling shrines. So that's the
I
problem.
really don't remember
I
that.
mean, people get real weird about shrine stuff. I mean, I know that Azami is one of the big ones right now, or Azumi. I can't remember which one it was. The Bloodlock chick who's going around dusting the ethnic shrines.
Mm.
I mean, she does them super late at night, and then the rest of the time she'll just sit in her haven to get the
Yeah,
defilement.
Azami.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think that that's like a huge thing of frustration. I know that Kate has mentioned it to me a couple times that you can't really ever catch her outside of her haven unless it's like I think she's only usually active around like 2 a.m. my time, and I'm on Pacific, so.
Yeah, and I
And
get
it's like
the
there's really no RP behind it as far, from my perspective of, just knowing of what she told me, other than, Azami really doesn't like ethne. I mean, she might have her RP reason behind it, but she's not like interacting with the order at all. She's just kind of being a nuisance. So,
right.
yeah.
but
Well, yeah, and that's the hard thing with shrines is the shrine mechanics in general, because you can defile whenever you want to. It doesn't have anyone actually even have to be around from the order to catch you doing it or anything like that. So I mean, I'm I wouldn't say that people maybe dislike the conflict. Maybe some people did. I don't know. I wasn't around for that. But I think that it comes back to that people just don't like shrine wars. Like they don't like holy wars because it's not really fun to watch your shrines get dusted when you're not around and then go dust shrines when they're not around and then have to try to put them back up and then this
Right.
cycle of, you know, just fighting over shrines. And then the fact that the aura, while it's not a bad aura, it makes you open PK. So, um, you're trying to do anything during that time period because you decided to participate in a holy war because your god said so. And, you can be ganked. And they're like, well, they had the aura, so therefore it's not issuable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it comes down to just the way that shrine mechanics and stuff works when it comes to dusting them. I'm not against it. It's just it's a pain. It's again we're getting back to like why the war mechanics didn't necessarily work as well as they could have.
Yeah. So basically, what we're learning here, or knowing, as it were, or reiterating, is that a lot of the conflict mechanics in the game are antiquated and flawed and need to be changed. I think.
Yeah, and I do agree that we can make sure that people just don't jump the next day and just asking for some level of restraint. And hopefully we could have that. In the best case scenario, we could. Um, but yeah, so but at least with where it is with the nebulous PK causes, makes it difficult to encourage people to want to get involved in that kind of activity on a meaningful level.
Yeah. And then another thing I wanted to say is that in that particular example, that event that I just mentioned that Benedicto tried to do, was that what had happened is that we as a guild, the people, we had a choice of who wanted to participate. Like, you didn't have to go do it. And then, I don't remember how many of us did. A bunch of us got defilement auras, and we defiled these shrines. And at the time when we were actively defiling, nobody came to stop us. And what they did at the time was Iocene's order decided to declare holy war on a random spirit order, because they couldn't retaliate against the Templars, because you can't declare a holy war against a guild. That was part of the problem at the time. So they decided to declare holy war against the Mariel's order, who literally just had like 10 show and a lolly in it. That was it. And then they had to basically deal with the pain of all that when they had nothing to do with our guild. So,
And that's a mechanical limitation, unfortunately.
But hopefully, the hope was, at least on my end at the time, that maybe we could have learned from that and fix that problem mechanically. But obviously, there's not been any changes to Holy Wars since. But it is what it is. But I at the same time, I praise Benedicto for trying something. Like, he tried something. Maybe that didn't have the best outcome, but man, he actually tried it. Like, he actually went out and tried to do something, which I think is a net positive. And at the time on the podcast, when me and Lolly were talking about it, or whoever was on with me at the time, I said that maybe he could have done it better and planned it better. That doesn't mean that I disagreed with him trying. Like, I feel like he did a great job trying. Like, he tried something. And to speak to Benedicto's credit, that's kind of what he's known for. Like, he is a leader that goes out and tries things. So, I don't know. That's just the way I look at it. Like, I like when people actually try things and don't
I
think
agree.
about losing. Just actually try things.
No, content creation is what keeps us moving forward. Doing interaction with the game and with the people within the game is what keeps things moving forward, even if it's small pockets of interaction or creation. So, no, I'm 100% against attempting to do something versus just sitting there and waiting for something to happen.
Yeah. I should respond to this city tell. Alas, indeed. Yep, and I think we've talked about what we plan to talk about today, and then some. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about, or are we good to get out of here? Well, but I'll do the giveaway if we're done.
No, I mean, I think that we're creeping up on 2 hours, which seems to be
a
good amount of time.
2 hours and 4 minutes.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, let's do the giveaway then. I'm gonna hit the button to close the giveaway, and it'll say in chat who won. Also, there's 6 people in it, just so you guys know. Draw a winner. Well, there you go.
Chaos Squid, hooray!
Yep. I believe that's Zavin, right? Do I have confirmation that is Zavin?
Yeah, it is him. What does he need credits for, anyways?
Okay. There you go. You did it. You won. We're living the dream here, giving away credits. If anybody's in here who hasn't followed, I think everybody's followed. Please follow. We're trying to get to 50 followers so we can get affiliate. I think we're at with the 3 follows today, I think we're at 15 followers. So that's pretty cool. It's really good for 2 streams so far. So we're making progress. I hope everybody enjoys the VOD. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day. Hopefully we have some more lessers, or another lesser tonight that I can actually go to instead of hosting the stream, but that's okay. Yeah, we'll be back next week, and if Sidon wants to come back on, he's welcome. If Steve wants to come back on, he's welcome. If anybody else wants to, there's obviously an empty spot here below me. So whatever anybody wants to do, we'll do it, and we'll have fun. And we'll see you all later.
Sweet.
Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
See ya.